Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. Very excited to have you with us tonight. We've got a really, I think, just fantastic show. We've got a lot of stuff coming up, but as you know, there's always political news happening here in Kentucky. We've got some important lawmakers that have, an important voice, I guess, in Washington, D.C. We're going to highlight some of those. We've got some far less important lawmakers that have voices in Frankfurt. We're going to talk about some of those. And I think the most exciting thing of today's show, we have got Representative Jim Wayne, former Representative Jim Wayne, represented Louisville for 28 years, I believe, in Frankfurt. And he wrote a scathing op-ed about redistricting. So we're really excited to have him on and talk about his views and firsthand experience with redistricting, because in 28 years, you're going to see a few of them. So really exciting show for you tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to keep you entertained and informed over the next hour or so. We try to keep it at an hour. Some want us to go longer. Some want us to go shorter. You tell us. Put it in the chat. Let us know what you want us to go for. An hour, 45 minutes, really 20, Aaron, is plenty. Let us know. We're not gonna do it, but we'd like to hear your views. All right, so we're going to check in with our co-hosts because, we got some wonderful folks to share their views with you tonight. But before we do that, I want to just make a quick plug. So Progress Kentucky, which puts on this podcast or live stream every week or so, we are an all-volunteer nonprofit organization with a specific goal of turning Kentucky purple. Why purple? Why purple, you ask? Aaron, we have a Democratic governor. Clearly, we're not a red state, are we? Yes, we are a red state, folks. I don't know if you paid attention to the last statewide election, but man, we are a red state. So we'd like to get to blue, but that's going to take us some time. And I think to get to purple, first off, it's just the reasonable step. And that's what we are. We are rational and reasonable realists, political realists, but we are progressive. And we know that the way to get to purple is by strongly supporting the politicians and the policies that take care of the real folks in our Commonwealth, not folks who just want to inflame culture wars and pick fights over things they hear on Fox News. So that's what we do here at Progress Kentucky. We try to give you some facts, right? Kernels of truth. That's the show. Truth_truth. We aren't lying to you. And unlike some other shows out there. And it's all about marshaling those facts and getting them out there in a way that makes sense to people, so we can share them among our friends, make some new friends, help bring folks over to our cause. And if you like that idea, if you like the vision of a purple Kentucky, please help us do it. Nothing in this world is free, even though we're all volunteers. So it's not going to fat, outrageous salaries. It's going to the work. It's going to the tools we need to get this work done. So please make a donation. It is secure. It's an ActBlue website, so that money's not going anywhere, but to us for the work. Anything you can do is helpful. $50, $5, anywhere in between, maybe 500. Maybe you're super generous and you want to help us out right now. We would appreciate it. So now let's check in. Who are you? Where are you? And what does your protest sign say today? And I have been shamed by my co-hosts. I now actually have brought a sign. My name is Aaron. I'm coming to you from Childsburg. And my sign says, voters should pick their representatives, not vice versa. That's something that we'll be talking about later on. Let me throw it to my buddy, Nate.
Thanks, Aaron. This is Nate Orshan coming live and direct from Kitson, my home here in sunny South Frankfurt. And tonight, for the first time ever, I've made a sign, and it says, as you can see, it says, Rand Paul, you know it all, yet we're still appalled.
I don't think that's what that said. Somebody help
me.
Kimberly, what do you got for us?
Hi, I'm Kimberly Cecil Jones, and I'm coming to you live from Louisville, Kentucky, and being the bearer of some challenging news that gun violence is up 50% plus in Louisville, Kentucky, which is Jefferson County. and having over 80 murders by guns and over 300, well, close to 300 gun-related incidents in Jefferson County. My protest sign says today, if you could just imagine, get the illegal guns off the streets.
Amen. Absolutely. All right. And the man behind the boards, Ken, what do you got for us?
I'm going to be short today, I promise. Shorter. Help America save the vote. Stop Jim Crow 2.0. Join us, participate, save democracy, as a record number of states are passing voter restrictions because of the big lie. Democracy as we know it is under attack, and this is why I say it's time to act. Stacey Abrams has a website that is very much Stop Jim Crow 2.0. That's my website. It looks like Kentucky backwards, but it's not.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Super great signs. Ken, thanks for shaming us into writing them down. Maybe Kimberly will do it next week. Maybe not.
I mean, it was hard.
Don't forget when I brought the really big, beautiful velvet pink sign that said "Hustle Harder." Remember I brought that?
Yeah, that was really nice. You'd have that one every week. Just bring that one. All right. Thank you so much, co-hosts. Now we're going to roll right into news of the week. We've got some breaking stories. This one in the broken clock category. Nate Orshan has for us.
Thanks, Aaron. Oh, Senator Paul. Smug, smarmy, sweaty Senator Paul. Okay, I made up the sweaty part. Here's the deal. A week ago, on Tuesday, June 1st, the Washington Post and BuzzFeed Feed News published a bunch of previously unreleased emails from Dr. Anthony Fauci, our top infectious disease expert. And the right-wing media sphere has been going slightly berserk, claiming that all of these either prove that Fauci was lying about the possibility that the virus might have originated in a lab in Wuhan, China, where they apparently do study similar stuff, or maybe he's just, irresponsible and or incompetent. This, of course, is a subject near and dear to Kentucky's junior senator, as Senator Paul has publicly taken Dr. Fauci to task for stuff he said about herd immunity, about the benefit of wearing a mask even after you've gotten your COVID vaccine, and, of course, about not supporting the theory that the Wuhan Institute of Virology might have been the real source of severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, aka SARS-CoV-2. Hashtag Fire Fauci is what Paul tweeted, along with a wonderfully brief and self-aggrandizing message. Told you. All that was missing from that was a video of Nelson, the famous bully from The Simpsons, going, so what was really going on? Yes, on February 1st, 2020, an immunologist wrote to Fauci via email. That's how they got it. And he wrote that the genetic code of SARS-CoV-2 had small bits of DNA that looked like, quote, some of the features potentially look engineered, unquote. So smoking gun? Nah. When that immunologist team went over the genome with a fine tooth comb, I can do this. And note, a fine tooth comb is a metaphor. It's not a real lab instrument. Their formal study stated, quote, our analyses clearly show that SARS-CoV-2 is not a laboratory construct or a purposefully manipulated virus, but it is currently impossible to prove or disprove the other theories of its origin described here. You got that? There wasn't evidence that the virus had been tampered by people. So Fauci did the conservative thing, and that's conservative in the traditional sense of being cautious, not the current sense of just believing whatever Fox News tells you as the undisputable truth. He did the conservative thing, and he said that there wasn't any evidence that the virus was engineered as opposed to evolved, because there wasn't. And now that experts are going back and forth and revisited the engineered in Wuhan theory, it's gaining some legitimate traction. But does that mean that how Fauci responded was, not the right thing? or that he was wrong. No way. No way. He's a freaking scientist, people. If you give him new, empirically generated, peer-reviewed and approved data, he'll up and change his message because, wait for it, that's exactly the way science is supposed to work. So good for Rand Paul and his lame little gotcha moment. But even he should know that a broken analog clock is right twice a day. So in honor of smug, smarmy Senator Paul, may I just say, tick, 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 time's up.
That's awesome. Thanks, Nate. So yeah, one of our liber hair twins, Rand Paul. Man, yeah, it's so funny reading the stories, right? So looking at the story from like an unbiased news source, which I would call the AP or the Washington Post largely unbiased, kind of the facts, versus Fox News, they actually saw a lot of similarities, right? Like the actual, because it was Fauci's email, like actually showing what the email said, but the kind of the perception of what Fauci said and how they were interpreting it was so different, right? So again, we've gotten to this point where partisanship has like divorced us from a just ability to have an unbiased viewing of facts, right? We just look at the world in completely different ways. I saw what Fauci said and said, yep, this makes sense. This looks like a scientist, saying the cautious thing. And then as more information is being, coming to light, being researched, he said, look, the data shows this, right? So from masks, I think there's a very significant shift as well, going from like, well, not really sure. Also, I know that if we tell everyone they need masks, then there aren't going to be masks available for the healthcare workers. So like, let's go slow on masks. And then as the data made it more clear that the way this virus was transmitting from infected people to uninfected people meant if you were infected and you wore a mask, you were going to definitely cut down on the spread of the virus. Science showed that, he shared that. And then all of a sudden masks are politicized, right? It's scary to me that like data is taking a back seat to, your tribe. And that's just very disappointing to see, because I don't think Fauci, say what you will about him. Like he never trashed Trump. He never, even when Trump was saying he should inject some bleach, Fauci never trashed him. He just, made sure that he was putting out the facts as the data, what the data reflected. So I don't think Fauci is partisan. I think he's appreciative now of working for an administration that appreciates science and isn't going to get out there touting hydroxychloroquine or bleach as solutions. Ken, I know you have a few thoughts.
Just a few. I watched the video. I unfortunately watched the Fox News video from pointing the wrong direction. This article that Nate talked about. My comments after Paul described the plot of the movie 28 Days Later. I don't know if you've seen that movie. He made some giant leaps in hypothesis about the COVID pathology. Rand may know pathology from science classes he took to become an eye doctor or whatever, but only just because and pathology is the science that causes that studies the cause and effects of disease, especially in the laboratory. Examinations of sample, body tissue, diagnostic or forensic for those purposes. Research, which is we know Paul is an unlicensed eye doctor, so I'm not entirely sure if he knows research. He is a doctor, so I don't know, licensed or not, that's not the point. I'm no expert, but I have worked closely with doctors to create articles for journals and chapters for books. Yes, I am published in medical journals, which is crazy. My work. But I wasn't the doctor. I just took a picture. That's beyond the point. In these journals, there are results. There is evidence. They do study after study with thousands of people. It's not speculation. It's a reality. And Paul, he comes back with this 2-word tweet. Told you. Like, seriously, what does that even mean? Like, it's a bunch of random crap, much like if you give an an infinite amount of monkeys, an infinite amount of time, and a typewriter, they will eventually write Shakespeare, hypothetically. And the reporter on the Fox News story asked Paul this very loaded question, quote, why can't the White House commit to this real investigation? Or now Biden's done an about face and he's saying, we're going to investigate this at the end of 90 days. We'll figure it out. What makes him think he can I can't even do the voice the way she does. And then she goes on to say China's not letting anyone in there. Well, I mean, the WHO was there and, you know, whatever. But it's what kind of question is this? I did very little research, very tiny amounts of research. I went to the White House website, whitehouse.gov, where Biden wrote what he is doing to find the origins of the virus, which apparently she answers her own questions with clear punditry dripping with anxiety-wrenching fear-mongering as she throws the American intelligence agents community under the bus and adds contextless racism sprinkles to enrage her base viewers with more information, which is just another play in the fascist cookbook of how to make America a banana republic again. Aaron?
Are you sure there's not more to add, Ken? That was Ken got fired up. This is what happens when you watch Fox News and follow it up with a Pod Save America chaser. It is hard to contain yourself. No, absolutely, Fox News is doing a horrible job here and is not doing a service to any of its viewers. But of course, you know, the viewers are nice and scared and they're like, you know, buying gold or whatever the hell Fox is selling these days. All right, Kimberly, anything you want to say about Rand and whether he was right or not?
I mean, Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell must be the best subjects that I have to just bash someone because they give me a lot to talk about. Rand Paul is, I've said it before, I'll say it again, he's about as dumb as a bag of rocks. Actually, who knew how to deal with this pandemic? We had not had a pandemic of this magnitude since 1918. And I mean, information is going to come out. And I personally have always believed that somebody could have made a mistake and it just spread all over the place. I mean, the bat theory, I wasn't going for that too much, but Rand Paul, once again, he is an idiot personified, and he shows it each and every time he opens his mouth.
If only there was some election coming up by which we could get rid of him. Stay tuned on that one. All right, so we're moving on to story number 2, and that actually we just go right back to our friend Kimberly Cecil Jones. What do you got for us?
Yes, I love most definitely to talk about Mitch McConnell and how he is warning the American people, and especially his own constituency here in Kentucky, to have the crummy jobs or to live in even more poverty. Last week on a Wednesday in Shelbyville, there was a private meeting, and Mitch McConnell actually said that he felt that Governor Fischer should get rid of the federal American Rescue Plan money that's slated to end on September the 6th. Now, this is the extra $300 a week that unemployed Americans are getting. At this particular time, there's 23 other states that surround Kentucky, with the exception of Illinois, that are getting rid of the extra $300 per month. Well, our governor, our beloved governor, Andy Beshear, says, ain't gonna happen. Number one, it would slow the economy here in Kentucky. And if you're so worried about people that, they just want to sit at home on their tails, doing nothing, looking at stories and collecting this money, then these jobs need to pay more. And then also, what about the families that this is still not enough money for them to survive? what's going to happen to them? So we are so glad to have the governor that we have that can stand up to the GOP in this state and say, ain't going to happen here. So the next thing that I like to talk about is an opinion piece by Paul Waldman, and he's talking about our favorite villain, Mitch McConnell, and that's exactly what he calls him in the article, a villain. And in this article, he's talking about, we haven't heard much from Mitch McConnell concerning anything at the federal level here lately, and that's because he doesn't have to say much. President Biden's nemesis, number one public enemy, Mitch McConnell, just can sit back and take a break because a Democrat, Joe Manchin, is doing everything for him. And as long as the Democrats are going to do their infighting, and as long as the filibuster is still in progress, there is a big chance, Mr. Waldman says, that we will not continue to have the Senate or maybe even the House when 2024 rolls around. Or is it 2022? 2022, right? Right. 2022. So at this particular time, we Americans, we have got to do something and stand up for what's right. And if it is true what Mr. Waldman is saying in the Washington Post, in his opinion piece, he's feeling that there is a big chance that Republicans will take over the House and the Senate again. Why? Because we as voters, we want to get people in that are going to do the things that they promise that they're going to do for us. And that cannot always get done the way that Mitch McConnell and his cronies hold things up. And right now, I hate to say it, a Democrat, a supposedly brother of West Virginia, Joe Manchin, is holding us up. So what do we do in the meantime? We try to do the best we can, and hopefully there will be some type of a way that, since we do have the executive branch and we do have Congress and the Senate, that we can maybe do something with the filibuster. Back to you, Aaron.
Thanks, Kimberly. Yeah, a couple stories in there. I think, the interesting one is, they're both interesting, but, Mitch leaning on Andy to get rid of or reject the federal support, that $300 a week. Like, why would any Democratic governor say, yeah, no, I want my people to, be forced to take a crummy job because they have no other choice, right? It's like the Kentucky Center for Economic Policy, who, I think does amazing work, put out I think we've referenced this in the past, but, they looked at Kentucky jobs, and nearly 40% of unemployment in Kentucky pays less than $15 an hour. Almost half these jobs don't provide health insurance, 70% don't include retirement benefits, and 38% have no paid sick days, right? So of course, got a bunch of crappy jobs. If people can survive by staying home and, not have to spend the money on taking care of their, putting their kids into daycare or whatever, because schools have been all upside down, of course they're going to stay home. If their option is, maybe in the service industry where, $2.13 an hour is the minimum wage for tipped employees, which has not changed since 1991. There are a lot of really bad jobs out there, and Mitch McConnell wants to force people into them. Sounds like, he's not on our side, right? Thank God Andy is. One other thing, on Manchin, I go both ways on this a little bit. I don't like Joe Manchin. I wish Joe Manchin would get with the Democrats and get on board. But I look at the kind of, I live here in Kentucky, which again, pretty red state. I came here not that long ago from Louisiana, very red state. And we had for a very long time a blue dog Democrat representing a couple of them, actually. And Mary Landrieu was this kind of constant, just thorn in my side, somebody who wants progressive policies, who wants the environment protected. She was just not that. And you think about it, though, she ultimately didn't get reelected because they went for not the Republican light, but they went for the actual Republican. And Joe Manchin, who knows if he'll get reelected, but I think he is working very hard to represent his very red state. And he will never get reelected if he's seen as some kind of happy warrior helping Pelosi and Schumer enact the socialist, revolution, which is basically what Fox News is kind of painting, things happening in DC right now, right? So he's got to be seen as this bipartisan trying to force people together. And he learned from, Senator Byrd, who was like the kind of quintessential, bipartisan individual. I think the times have changed, but I also understand kind of where he's at. And again, I think we approved a judge today. There are a number of other judges that are going to be approved. And if we did not have control of the Senate, even if it's a frustrating amount of we don't have as much control as we want. We don't have 60 votes. We don't have the kind of spine to overturn the filibuster. We have something, right? We have the chairmanships. We have the control of what votes are happening. We're able to get our judges confirmed. I absolutely wish that Joe Manchin would get on board and we could reform the filibuster. And I think at some point, he might break and we might get the talking filibuster or something that will force, kind of shake this out a little bit. But we have to just kind of keep bringing legislation that is like very clearly in the public interest, very clearly stuff that would pass with 51 votes plus, but the Republicans just will not work with us, which, I don't know why Joe Manchin can't listen and, believe Mitch McConnell when Mitch McConnell says he has zero interest in doing anything to help Biden get anything done. Right. So that's on Manchin as well. But, I'm a little bit conflicted over the thing. But I think ultimately, I'd rather have Manchin and, the majority in the Senate, even if it's a very narrow one, than no Manchin and Mitch McConnell back in power. That's pretty basic analysis, but that's what I've got to share with you today. So anyone else want to comment on Mitch's latest doings?
I'll just say short and sweet. Unfortunately, as our colleague and my dear spouse, Kit O'Connor, frequently says, Senator Mitch McConnell never lets us down in letting us down.
For sure. All right. So we're going to move on now, doing a quick worst. One of my favorite sections. This is worst politician of the moment. And this comes to us from Northern Kentucky, which is where the first of 3 bills has been pre-filed on the issue of critical race theory. This is the new culture war that the Republicans are wading into, apparently without ever reading anything about critical race theory, but they know that it inflames their base, so they're all about it. So Representative Joe Fischer from Northern Kentucky, he wants to ban critical race theory from all Kentucky schools, and that is because he does not understand what critical race theory is, or he's just a big white supremacist and wants to stay, he's very comfortable with his white supremacy. So here's his quote on it. Critical race theory is not based on facts or evidence, but rather serves as a dangerous diversion from education priorities that are actually proven to eliminate disparities. It is a powerful tool for those who seek to divide us into categories and destroy the very institutions that have seen generations of Americans of all races and backgrounds build successful futures, says Representative Fischer. So he has now filed legislation that will do a few things. It will ban any teaching that one race is inherently superior to the other. So that's his leading thing that he wants to do with this bill. Ban any teaching that one race is inherently superior to the other. So, okay, I am pretty sure there's no one that's teaching that. I'm sure, I guarantee you that critical race theory is not teaching that one race is inherently superior to another. That's not what white supremacy is. No one's saying whites are superior to other races. That's not what that means. It's also banning and that teaching that any individual by virtue of his or her race or sex is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. All right. So again, I don't think that he really nailed it here. The idea of critical race theory is that race has played a role in how our society has been shaped, in the institutions and how they are shaped, and that that those institutions need to be analyzed, and the impact on all elements of our society needs to be exposed and lifted up. It's not saying that you're racist. It's that we live in a society that has been structured so that the power structure is such that folks get away with a lot of garbage here, and the folks who are not white have to pay a very heavy burden because of the way our society is structured. I think so. Again, he basically has found these kind of, I don't know, it's a straw man, basically. He's filing a bill that will, stop a straw man. There is no straw man. This is not what's happening with critical race theory. So it's like, read a book, read a little bit about, our kind of the inherent, racism within our society. And maybe then you'll have a much better idea of what you should be filing, Representative Fischer. But again, Representative Fischer was just the first worst of the moment. There have now been 2 other bills, because this is where Fox News wants Republicans spending time, which is fighting the culture wars and making sure that, Antifa isn't forcing your kid to use, alternative pronouns. That's where we are. So that's what we got. We're now going to move on. I'm very excited for this segment of the show. We're going to bring on former Kentucky State Representative from Louisville, Jim Wayne. And Jim Wayne, I'll be honest, I live in Lexington. I was not terribly familiar with Jim Wayne, but I then read an opinion piece in my newspaper that really stuck it to the Frankfurt and the redistricting process. And if you don't know much about gerrymandering, and we're going to get into it now, but you should know about it because it is inherently anti-democratic. And it is something that is looming right now because there's been the census has happened, and that count of people in our nation then is reflected in representation, and so that census will drive redrawing maps, political maps, and there's a few different facts about kind of what impact that could have. And unfortunately, this is the first time the Republicans have been in charge for a very long time, in like kind of modern history here in Kentucky. And so it could be bad. And so I want to bring on Representative Jim Wayne. Hello, Representative Wayne.
Hello, Aaron. It's good to be with you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. 28 years in the legislature. That is amazing. Did they give you a watch when you left? Like, how do they mark that?
They did give me a plaque, which I think is gathering dust somewhere. But but the real joy and real reward was to actually be there and serve my people. So.
That's wonderful. So as you look back on the 28 years, what were some of the things you were most kind of proud of as a legislator?
Well, there were a number of things. One is we established and got fully funded the Kentucky Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which addresses the serious crisis in our state of homelessness and people living in inadequate housing. So that has built probably about 15,000 units since we got that passed. And those units are built in part from this money, but also it's a collaborative effort. But it's a wonderful program that any nonprofit or local government can tap into when they want to build affordable housing for their citizens. The other thing we did was to pass the legislation on the campus safety for all of our universities and colleges in Kentucky after the death of a Murray State University student in 1999, when the university covered up the crime. He was killed when arsonists, people who were harassing him because of his differences, in the dormitory, they set his dormitory room on fire, and he died in the fire. His mother, who's a remarkable woman, helped shepherd that legislation through. So we demand now that under law, all the universities and colleges be totally transparent on all crimes on campus. So within 24 hours, everybody has to be alerted to everything. And we don't have campus hired security and campus hired fire people investigate crimes. They have to be investigated by outside entities. So that was major progress. There are a number of other items that we passed. The child sex abuse in light of the Catholic Church's sex abuse scandal. We passed legislation to tighten that. So anytime now you see a teacher being prosecuted for being involved with an 18-year-old student, that is because of that new law. So we really tightened that up. It needs to be tightened more, but we did major progress. And then I guess among the other things we did was help relocate 10,000 unwilling people surrounding the Louisville airport when they expanded the airport to make sure that UPS had its facility the way they wanted it. Corporate interests basically ruled that. And to the dismay of the 10,000 people living around the airport. So we were able to get millions and millions of dollars, federal and state, to help those people get relocated safely. Unfortunately, many of them died in the process of fighting for that money, literally died. And it was one by suicide, others by health issues that were spurred by the stress. It's a trail of tears in Louisville's history, how that was expanded. So there were a number of things like that we tried to address.
Well, it sounds like a wonderful legacy of, just compassionate, lawmaking and working to, actually serve the people who most need the help, which, well, that's a refreshing idea that was something that, people did. But you left not that long ago. It was 2019. What is what's your reflection on what you've seen out of this kind of Republican super duper majorities that are able to do kind of whatever the heck they want to do because of their amazing numbers?
It's tragic. It's really tragic because these people are so ideologically driven and driven also by fear of losing any power. And what you see now are people actually being hurt by the policies that are being enacted as law by these legislators. And some of the people I really admire as individuals, I worked with them, Republicans, I worked with them. I'm just so totally disappointed in how they've taken on these extreme right-wing issues and demonized anyone who wants to be compassionate, demonized anyone who wants to speak up for the racial injustices in this state, demonize anyone who wants to put curbs on corporations, demonize anyone who wants to have a more progressive tax system. So it's really tragic. And if people in Kentucky aren't angry about this, they're not paying attention. And I hope that they really take their anger and channel it in the 2022 election and see to it that reasonable legislators, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, we want reasonable, compassionate, truthful legislators in Frankfort. We don't want these hypocrites, these power-hungry, inadequate individuals who are spineless. And that's who is in control right now.
Yeah, that definitely seems true. As I've noted, looking at the legislation and what was done, what were their first bills, what were their priority bills, it seemed like they had a two-part agenda when they showed up in Frankfurt, which one was to take power from the governor, and two, which was to give our taxes to corporations. Yes. It's like that was pretty much all they seemed to care about, and then set some things up so they could make their elections easier. But as I said, you gained my attention and my my appreciation when I read your op-ed entitled, and I know you don't write the headlines, maybe you did, but the headline was "Kentucky Republican Lawmakers Should Exorcise Satan from the Redistricting Process," and this was back in April. Tell me, what did you mean by that?
Well, the truth, I mentioned in the op-ed that there are two things that are really the most ugliest processes in Frankfurt that I experienced in my nearly 3 decades there. One is when you have leadership races every 2 years, when people lie, cheat, and steal and horse trade all over the place to jockey into positions of power. The other is, whether that's Democrats or Republicans, and the other is redistricting. And what I saw, and I'm a Democrat, but when I saw my leaders basically maneuver the way they did and be as vindictive as they were toward the minority party, I was appalled. And so what we did in 2012 was to propose that we do what many other states, red and blue states, do, and that is set up a commission, an independent commission that would review the census data, and that with that information, they would draw up the lines for the districts. So there would not be partisanship, there would not be politics. They would be drawn up based on the geographic areas that would be contained and not gerrymandered, 100 miles here and 100 miles there with a yard wide link in between. But they would have compact districts, and they would also try to have districts that represent the communities. So for instance, if you have Pulaski County and you carve it up in 5, 6 different House districts, that doesn't serve the people of Pulaski County. They don't have a single voice. They have fractionated voices. And so it's not good for that community. So what this commission would do would basically take the data. They would be objective in outlining the new districts. And those new districts would be presented to the legislature. The legislature could not amend them, but the legislature by constitution has to approve the redistricting plans. So that would be in statute. And this works in other states. And those other states where it does work, you don't see court challenges the way we've had in Kentucky for gerrymandered districts. So my hope is that this is something that would be taken seriously. My fear is that it will be totally ignored by people who supported it in the past, including the Speaker of the House, David Osborne, who co-sponsored this legislation in 2012. Now, whether or not he will be looking at this at all, I'm doubtful. We have worked with the League of Women Voters. I met with them a number of years ago and said, plan for this for the next election, plan ahead. And they have been educating people around the state about really how unjust and in many ways criminal the process is right now. And what the Democrats did, the self-serving Democrats, and there are many good selfless Democrats, but the ones who were in power, who were self-centered and self-serving, that is who the Republicans seem to want to imitate right now. And that's tragic for the Commonwealth. And all this is done behind closed doors. So they draw up these maps without public hearings, without public input. It's all done with computers behind closed doors to say, hey, how can we get that one? And put that Democrat in with another Democrat, or in our case, that Republican in with another Democrat or another Republican. And it's really shameful of the way it's done in Kentucky. It's so primitive, it's so backward, and it's so unjust. So the hope is that we would have an enlightened legislature who would say, hey, let's take the politics out of this, set up an independent commission, see what they come up with. There is a model for this in Kentucky. When we had metro government first established in the early 2000s, we had a geographer from the University of Louisville who was given the task to draw up the new metro council districts. And that geographer drew them all up according to the interest of the different neighborhoods. And it was not political at all. And the Metro Council then endorsed that independent drawing up of the boundaries. And something similar needs to be done on the state level.
Hear, hear. You know, as I get older, I start paying more and more attention to redistricting and gerrymandering. But what I'm wondering is, you know, after spending 28 years in the House, was there ever a point that you noticed that your fellow Kentuckians were starting to get more interested in preventing it? Or has the interest in that been sort of the same all along? You know,
I think the interest has been the same all along. Unfortunately, this is inside baseball for most citizens. They don't understand it. They don't know how it works, and so they're not going to take time from going to the grocery and picking up the kids at the daycare and coming home and doing laundry to pay attention to this. It's all done behind closed doors, and the leaders know this. They know they can get away with it, and they're also trading in the process. So if someone in essence needs to be bought off, they'll reward them with an extra precinct that's solidly going to support them. So it's a lot of horse trading that goes on to make sure that the people in power stay in power, and they make sure that the districts are drawn in such a way that they can maintain the majority so they can be the speaker or the president of the Senate and so forth. It's really tragic. And for programs like this that you all are providing, it is just wonderful. So people can be alerted to this and they can call their legislator. They can take their legislator out to breakfast and say, let me tell you, I got this idea that I've heard on this show or whatever, and we really want you to support it. Can you support that? And that's the kind of grassroots information that they need and grassroots action that they need to take when issues like this come up. This is going to affect us for the next 10 years. And if they redraw the 3rd congressional district, for instance, it's not just the state legislative districts, the Senate and the House and Frankfurt, but also they redraw the congressional district. If they draw it in such a way that they break up the city of Louisville, it's criminal, because the city of Louisville needs a congressperson who can go to Washington and speak for our total community. And when you break us up into 3 or 4 different legislative districts so that you can basically have total control by Republicans in Washington from our congressional delegation, that's not right. And people need to be really angry about it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I just want to point out that we've got a graphic up right now that is, that's that map, right? It's 6 districts that are all Trump plus 15 that, no John Yarmouth in this scenario.
Right.
And, and that is, it's frightening, because clearly Louisville deserves a representative that, represents Louisville. And I think we all deserve that. But Kimberly, anything you wanted to add here?
Yes, Representative Wayne, I just wanted to let you know that I really appreciate you doing that op-ed and the work that you're continuing to do, even though you're not at the Capitol anymore. But do you have any thoughts of maybe jumping back in the ring again?
Well, Kimberly, you're very kind to even suggest it. But I really think, considering my age and my health, because I've had a battle with cancer 5 years ago, larynx cancer, and Mayo Clinic, and the good Lord helped me through that. And the fact that I have 4 grandchildren to enjoy right now, I think I can write op-eds and maybe, not necessarily be in the middle of the circus, be outside the circus, but try to influence the acts in the circus.
You don't want to jump back into a Republican mega majority Frankfurt? That's crazy. Coward. No, I think absolutely understandable. I will say this. It's unfortunate when you lose voices, kind of good government voices like yourself, from that circus. Similarly, Joe Gravis, who was also kind of campaigning on this idea of the fair maps, was somebody who was outspoken about how important it was to move towards kind of nonpartisan redistricting, and then very unfortunately was not elected to that Senate seat that he was running for. His House seat then flipped to, so really just, it's tough times in Frankfurt right now. And, we need more kind of rational, informed voices to speak up. I am so glad you wrote your op-ed. I hope there are more coming. I don't know. Do you have a good sense of when redistricting will actually occur? Are we going to get it before 2022, or will we have a chance with the kind of current maps before they even get, heaven help us, worse? For the elections?
Well, you have to have the actual official data from the Census Bureau first, and then based on that, if you were to do a commission, you would not do it in 22. You would basically set up the commission in 22 and have them work during 22, and then come back in 23 and endorse the commission's work. But given the fact that they may want to try to flip the 3rd district and maybe flip some other House and Senate districts from Democrats to Republicans in 22 election, like Kimberly was talking about earlier, it could be that they will try to ramrod something through during the 60-day session coming up. So, assuming they have the actual official data from the Census Bureau.
Right. And that is a bit of a question mark, right? Because it's been a bit of a mess. I'm
well,
sure,
the census was kind of a mess this year, and, extended and so forth. So it's hard to say.
Like extended, but then cut short, like during a pandemic, seems like a challenging time to get a real count. Seems, and of course, the citizenship question that, the Trump administration was desperate to include there. It really does seem like we are not in the best situation in terms of quality data. But it is what it is. I guess we'll deal with it. Again, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. Any final thoughts you want to leave our viewers with?
Well, I think it's very important for people not to give up hope. These are dark times for people who really care about other people. It's really a dark time. But we have to be strong, and we have to be consistent in our message. And we have to basically care about each other as we're doing the work to change what's going on in Frankfurt and in Washington. Because the way you do something, the kindness that you bring to the task is just as important as the end result you're trying to achieve. And we need to be very strong and very determined in how we do it and what our end goals are, and never, ever give up.
That's so wonderful. Thank you. And I might just record that. Well, we will record it, but I might just replay that clip from time to time, because I think that's exactly right. But it can be a bit discouraging when you look at what's happening, at least with our representation in DC by and large, and the clown circus show in Frankfurt. I will say, kind of at the top of the ticket, we've got amazing leadership. Clearly, Governor Fischer, you say what you will about him, he's a terribly compassionate individual and very much wants what's in the best interest of all of our state. He's had some very significant challenges thrown at him. I feel like he's risen to the occasion very well. Similarly with Joe Biden, in Washington, D.C., can't say he does not care about people and what they're going through. And I think that is, I hope that, Republican, Democrat, that is coming through in that leadership, that compassionate leadership that we are seeing in Frankfurt and in Washington, D.C., at least at the administration level, whatever the kind of shenanigans of Congress or, the General Assembly might lead you to conclude about politicians writ large.
I agree, Aaron. And I think we have to remember that Sigmund Freud once said, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. And what he means by that is the caretakers, the loving care of parents with children, as children grow up, influence that person in their leadership roles. And we know that Andy Beshear had good parenting, and we're happy that his mother and his father did a good job with him.
Absolutely. He seems like a great parent himself, for sure.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the time with the grandkids. Good luck on your writing. I do hope you'll, show up in the opinion pages from time to time, because I do like your voice. I think your approach is wonderful. And that fact-based, reason-based, compassion-based message is something we all need to hear as frequently as possible. Thank you very much.
Very, very kind. My wife keeps nudging me. She'll say, it's about time for another one, right? So get in there at the computer. So you can help blame her. So.
We will thank her then. All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay. You all take care. It's good to be with you.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. All right. And now we're going to roll that into our call to action, which very much in keeping with the subject matter we just heard. Kimberly, what do we got going on?
Well, in the call to action tonight, it is Indivisible and other groups are planning events around the country during the upcoming summer recess to pressure the Senate to act and pass the For the People Act, which is so incredibly important, and to end partisan gerrymandering, get big money out of politics, and protect people's ability to vote without unethical and unfair barriers. We're excited to pull together an event or two targeting Mitch and Rand, of course, but we're going to need your help. We're thinking banners, big crowds, and perhaps some theatrics. Raise your hand right now to save our democracy from Mitch and Rand. I raise my hand as well. What do you think about that, Aaron?
I think that's wonderful. I think people should do it. I hope they do it. There's a website you can go to raise your hand in a less literal fashion. Fill out your information, tell us that you want to help out. We will be in touch. There is, in fact, an organizing committee meeting that, Progress Kentucky is in the process of organizing. But if you go ahead and throw your info in there, that bit.ly link, join Pro KY, you can volunteer, and we will let you know about that organizing committee meeting. If you make the cut, Kit's cut. Kit is exacting, but I think they will likely allow you to show up if you are interested, because we do want to do this. The recess is a really important time. As folks probably know, Mitch McConnell is, the barrier to some democratic processes. If folks were paying attention, Joe Manchin had a horrible op-ed this weekend talking about how he's not for HR 1, the For the People Act. Fun fact, he was a co-sponsor of last session's For the People Act. So somehow he became less supportive as it became more likely to pass once we flipped the Senate. But I guess it's because now it's not bipartisan, and that's his like litmus test for any support of any legislation is if it's bipartisan. I don't know if he's ever met Mitch McConnell or heard Mitch McConnell's media reports, but all I'm saying is it's really important that we put the pressure on Mitch. He's not going to do the right thing. But he needs to know that, a significant number of his constituents see him, know what he's doing, and are adamantly opposed to his efforts to destroy our democracy, which is, what it comes down to. So that's it. It's the defend. It's the deadline for democracy. It's happening during the summer recess. Kimberly's going to be there. I'm going to be there. We're going to be there. And you should be there too.
Thank you, Aaron. I sure will. So I hope that everyone will join us because this is so incredibly important. And Aaron, you are the best host ever. Okay. So there might be one other person. Wink, wink. But you're great. And always to Nate Orshan. He just makes things so fun. And always to our producer, Ken Howe, who makes us look great. But we need to turn Kentucky purple, right? And are you willing to help us? Yeah, we need your help. This cannot be just done by the four of us. We need a lot more people to make it happen. So, join Progress Kentucky. You'll be so happy that you did. And we're very, very, very close to 4,000 likes on Facebook. So if you could please find it in your heart and take the time to like us and invite all of your friends and your family because we're giving out a lot of pertinent information and news for you about our state and what's going on in our state. And for all of us to progress and move ahead, we need to at least turn this state purple as we're moving from there to blue. So we know that the Commonwealth needs more kernels of truth to call out the propaganda and ridiculous claims of folks like Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, and Andy Barr. We're hatching a plan to reach out to our neighbors and mobilize folks around the state to join us and take action. But once again, it's going to take you. It's going to take you, and it's going to take some resources. We're going to print up postcards. We're going to add some handwritten messages, and we're going to spread the word about how we can turn Kentucky purple, and only we can do that. So also, we've got a goal of raising $1,500 for this project, and we are less than 20% of the way there. So please consider making a donation right now. Go hit us up on the Act Blue and make a donation to support this very, very important campaign that we have with Progress Kentucky. It is like our life's mission, ladies and gentlemen, it really is. And we're also looking for more volunteers. I'm looking at you. And are you interested in helping put together a bi-weekly newsletter? Can you bird dog your own representatives on social media and share when they embrace, the Q or the big lie, or just show who put in here their rear end? Like, who put this in my script? Like, somebody said the rear end, okay. Or if they're showing the rear end. You all know Kimberly Cecil Jones. I'm just going to say if they're showing their ass, okay? We want to see it. We want to know. And I don't mean that literally, okay? Not literally. But
she wants to see Damon Thayer's butt.
Oh, no. I don't want to see no butt. A lot of people have butt acne is what I've been hearing. So they got COVID, but so I don't know.
Or so I've been told.
So you've been told. Nate, you know what? Why didn't you just tell people you called me and told me you had the butt acne? Right?
Are we just stretching? Are we stalling for time? I mean, is something happening?
We just crossed the hour threshold. It's fine. We can wrap it up now.
I'm not stalling.
have we completely lost the plot?
Ladies and gentlemen, we have too much fun on this show, and I know you guys get a good hootenanny off of us too, and that's our producer telling me to wrap it up. But I just wanted to know who put the rear end in here. Okay, so we know all of that. And I got to say something about our producer. Thank you, Ken Howe from Couchfire Media for producing. Couchfire Media ignites multi-camera, live stream, fiction narrative, nonfiction, educational, informative, animation, and commercial video production content. Set your content on fire with Couchfire Media. And you can visit www.couchfiremedia.com. Once again, that's www.couchfiremedia.com, and see all of the great work that they're doing over there, including Ken Howe's work. Also, I just want to make sure that you know that some of us are doing a few things extra outside of the Kernels of Truth show. And one of those would be the Jones Report, which airs right here on Progress Kentucky, or the Jones Report radio program every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock with Mike Royer and Betsy Foster and yours truly. So check us out every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. And also, I would be remiss, absolutely remiss, if I did not mention my friend, my sister in the struggle of getting Kentucky Purple, Miss Denise Gray. You can catch her the second Sunday of every month over at the Bluegrass Activist Alliance Facebook page. I was going to say another Sunday, so it is the second Sunday of the month, okay? And you can check her out. And also, I cannot go anywhere without saying thank you to Nate Orshan for the wonderful song that you hear on our intro and outro. And you can hear more songs of Nate at www.natosongs, that's N-A-T-O songs.com. And be sure to join us next week, right here, same time, 7 p.m., same back channel, Progress Kentucky. And we're going to be discussing HR 91, which is the statewide referendum on abortion rights. And we'll be joined by our guest, Tamara Wilder, the Kentucky State Director of Planned Parenthood Alliance Advocates of Kentucky. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight and spending some time with us. And we will see you right here next week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. And until then, do something nice for somebody. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take any money. Just a smile or an encouraging word, something. Just do something nice for somebody, and we'll see you here next week.